What's up, everybody? Vancouver Pro, 2 weeks out. Actually, this is 12 days out today, and doing well. So had come down to a body weight low, 228 today, which that was been the plan, to try to come from this 230 mark a little bit lower to have some sharper condition that I wanted, but not sacrificing fullness, so don't let it go too much lower. You can see my fasted visual. I pose in the closet and also outside, and really happy with my poses. I wanted to fix my front lat spread, also my side try, and I like how those progressed. Needed to do more of like a vacuum as I hit my lat spread, gives a better taper. Then also I shifted to doing a staggered stance side try with that back leg backwards, and I think it just takes up more space on just my silhouette. Liked how that progresses, but very sharp today, so I'm in a good spot. Plan for the day is, for one, we're here in the Muscle Factory. We're going to train pull. I'll walk you through the session, and we'll kind of do some updates along the way of what I'm doing for my plan. So let's jump into it. All right, first exercise, starting on a hammer strength high row, and I set this one up where I rotate the working arm into that handle a little bit. So as this machine diverges, it'll pull this elbow out from the torso. So I rotate into it to keep this torso tucked tight. And also I set my seat low and sit back. And what that does is it brings this weight up a little bit more to where you're loading in the lengthen. And then as you pull down, since it's already lifted some, since you're sitting so low, you end up letting off when the muscle gets short, when it's at its hardest. So it improves the profile of this movement. But man, doing a pull down first with the elbow tucked is exactly why I've seen the improvements in my rear lat spread. Like if you look at my rear lat spread, like my lats just fill in the entire, that arm gap. This has been a key to it, but how it's set up is important. So doing 3 sets here. Actually woke up today feeling super confident. Not that I'm not confident, but I made some mistakes a few weeks ago trying to manipulate too many variables to get leaner, sort out water, if it is water retention issues, and made some calls that I should have looked at my past data from. A lot of this was around growth hormone. Growth hormone does a lot for me in prep, and making some reductions just really worsened the look. So brought that back up and started seeing the shift in composition that needed to happen today. So extremely confident. The goal for this show 100% is to win. Like I'm so locked in, I believe in myself that I can do it. So every day it's just, what do I need to do today to make that happen, to see out that goal? Of course, there's gonna be some killer guys here. So my own personal goal as well is just to be better than Toronto, which I already believe I am. I believe I can bring that to stage, so that will be its win in itself. But man, I want an outcome out of this. I'm gonna win this show. I know I need to mention it again before I forget it. Someone's gonna ask that, what grips am I using? These are my flex grips. They're awesome to hook in and have a lot of freedom of motion at the wrist. Brady Barnes, who's a classic physique pro, he developed these. They're awesome. I would highly recommend them. Just be mindful of keeping tension evenly dispersed in your grip in the middle of the handle. If you start torquing it, it could slide on you. So you just have to be mindful of it. But if you're locked in, they won't slide once you're used to it. This exercise for the day is prime extreme row. So we're moving to an upper back pattern. For our upper back pattern, we want to make sure we're allowing the scapulas to fully protract and fully retract. Utilize this pad and press into it as you row. Other things is we want to get these elbows as far back as possible. So we're sort of trying to really just squeeze the traps basically. This exercise is amazing for loading that big stretch where you can't get on any other row, because your normal rows, usually they get really hard when you get to that full contraction point. So prime extreme row is just a very unique piece of kit. If you don't have one, you could do a hammer strength isolateral row. It's okay. Or you can also extend the set just doing Kelso shrugs, just so you can fully fatigue out those trap fibers. Doing 3 sets here. Other updates for the plan, diet. So I've been doing 360 grams of carbohydrates, 45 grams of fat, 320 grams of protein on train days. I'm moving that up to 430 grams a day because body weight over these past 3 days has just been trending down. So I don't want to bring it down anymore. I'm gonna start bringing food up to hit a maintenance level and ride that into peak week. Non-train days, the only change is carbs come down to 240 grams. I've been using Chronometer now to log all my food. It's been excellent. I log my condiments, my salt, everything. It's dialed in, so I'll know exactly everything that should be in a peak week. Basically this week before peak week, you want to be solidifying those variables of the foods, condiments. They should really be in place, but just saying, if you have not, you want as much control going into peak week of your sodium, your fluids, your potassium, carbs, fats, all these things. So you're dialed in for peak week. It's make easy adjustments from there. Some people aren't tracking condiments closely, so sodium levels might be getting up and down. So this can really help just lock in those variables if you have not had them locked in, but you should. Right, next movement, moving on to Roger's single arm row. This is gonna be a lat biased row. And so what you'll notice is just like on the hamstring machine, I rotate myself kind of into this angle of the pad because this machine also diverges a bit. So the elbow drifts outward. So I rotate into that curve a bit. Also, I make sure, this one's great for lat because the handle drives down as you're rowing, exactly how the humerus moves. So trying just in the spot where this upper arm is tight to the torso. The only drawback to it is that it takes a lot of load on there to hit it. So anyway, 3 sets here. I brought up my sodium, just if anyone's curious right now. With salt and condiments and everything, I'm at 6 grams of sodium per day. That'll pretty much be pretty constant throughout peak week. I'll have a little bit more on show day potentially, but it's absolutely adequate for loading carbs, doing everything that you need to. I think people are overdoing sodium beyond probably what they really need to. It's okay, I mean, you adapt and regulate to a higher intake, but to think we need like 15 grams of sodium when you're a bodybuilder that trains indoors and that have excessive sweat rate probably doesn't make a lot of sense compared to like an endurance athlete. Fluid wise, at 250 ounces per day, about 2 gallons, and just spacing that out. So as we get into peak week, we want to make sure your fluid with meals, fluid between meals, and it's even throughout the day. So when you get closer to show day, you can modulate that up and down as you need to. I brought up my goals too, like whatever your goals are, like, man, you need to be ruthless about them, like really chase them down hard and be hungry for them, and just constantly believe in yourself. I see so many people that have the goal of whatever it is, and they're just half-ass on them. So be all in. Right, so we did some of the main compound movement. I have 1 compound left, but have 2 lat bias rows, lat bias movements, 1 upper back movement. Now moving on to some isolation work, so moving in rear delt. Do a prime pec deck fly, set the camber or the cam on a 5, so we're loading in the lengthened part, lets off as it gets stretched because back's starting to get fatigued, right? So we wanted to let off when it gets really hard and start loading when it's in that stretch position. I do lean forward because if you look at the fiber path of the rear delt, it does kind of want to pull the arm down in this path. So if you stay real upright, that absolutely will work the rear delt. I just feel I get a bit more range of motion and comfortability in my shoulder if I lean forward into it. Do 3 sets here, keep the reps a little higher, the 12 to 15 rep range. As far as my other components of my programming right now, I'm doing 11,000 steps per day. A lot of that is about 4,000 steps in one chunk in the morning. So I'll get up, I'll take my pics, I'll get on my walking treadmill desk and just work for a bit and get my steps in that way. Then I'll go pose. So posing, I'll do 1 non-stop 10-minute round. I'm gonna add in a second 10-minute round in the evening. I'll go through about 4 poses, all my mandatories and quarter turns in 10 minutes that way, non-stop, no rest. Cardio, there's none, so only steps right now. So as I get into peak week, I'll start tapering down this step count, dropping some fatigue off my legs. It's there with the posing, even the steps being a little bit more depleted. All right, so after rear delts, get into bicep work. Start with a dumbbell hammer curl. Why? Well, you can make justifications for starting with anything, I guess, but I do like this one as I feel like when I get into my curls that are supinated, my elbow is a bit more warmed up, just feels a little better. Also, your brachialis can be kind of a neglected muscle, so that's that muscle that's like that knot between the tricep and bicep. It kind of separates the arm, it gives it some width. So train that first. Then I'll go into my easy, just a cable curl. So standing single arm cable curl. I set that cable up to where I get full loading when the bicep is lengthened. So the cable's at 90 degrees at that bottom position and then lets off as I get towards the top. So I do get some bicep work absolutely in my hammer curl. And so it kind of sets up a good position to where I can load it lengthened and get the most out of the bicep and wrap up that way. So I'll do 3 sets of the dumbbell hammer curl and then 3 sets of the cable curl. One thing I have to give a shout out to is Animal, their new clothing line. I've been with them for 8 years, and by far this is the best clothing we've had for their summer merch launch. They have some oversized stuff. Also, they're soft. They're like fitting to the bodies and just so comfortable. So check them out. We have socks, shorts, hats, shirts. It's like the full line. So John 15 will get you 15% off. All right, everybody, that wraps up today's session. I ended with a deadlift. And no, shocker, it's not optimal. I've been wanting to do some type of hip hinge. I do a dumbbell RDL on my leg day. It's definitely hamstring bias, but I wanted to do something that can fully load the erectors, traps in like a lengthened position, and once they're already fatigued to where I think you get more out of it, if you're gonna do some type of deadlift towards the end of your back session, if it fits within your needs. Now, what are my needs? Well, I don't need more hamstring, so I don't really need an RDL. I don't want a full conventional deadlift either, so I kind of do this higher hip pull. But the thing about it is it's very controlled, all the way to the plates to the ground and back up. Not going high, full load or effort here. It's just kind of an introductory movement for me with the idea of post-show, I'm gonna really accelerate this thing and keep this standardized form, but using it more for erector development. So if you need something to develop erectors, some type of hip hinge where you can get that back as parallel as possible without compromising your lower back or bringing more hamstring to where you're limiting your ability to load the erectors. I've been in some pretty strict like SLDL form where hamstrings become a limiter before the erectors do. So this is my balance to strike that with this kind of high hip pull. But anyway, that wraps up the session. Again, fatigue's not super high, like I'm progressing loads and reps where I can, so excellent for 2 weeks out. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I will see you 1 week out.